everyone. Welcome to the Self-Awareness Journey podcast. I'm Melissa Albers.
And I'm JJ Parker. This podcast is for seekers of happiness and joy, seekers of a centered approach to success in life, seekers of their true, authentic selves.
Get ready for some real talk on everything from anxiety, emotions, and habits to love, compassion, and forgiveness. We know you'll be challenged and enlightened by this conversation. We're so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Well, JJ, I am so happy that you did not hit record until just in this moment because...
Why is that?
You had to listen to me rant and rave about tax season.
Yep.
Taxes, just gotta love them. So yesterday, I went into my CPA office, and my CPA was in her office with the door shut, and everyone was scurrying around the door, you know, as you do, tax season. And somebody said, "Oh, you're Melissa. Come on back, and I'll go through your packet with you." I was like, "Okay." And just she didn't even say hello. She didn't say anything. She's just like, "Come back, and I'll tell you your stuff." And I was almost annoyed because she was so blunt and so unfriendly. So we sit down. No, really.
The life of a CPA during tax season, though.
Not fun.
You gotta have some empathy.
Oh, I know. Oh, trust me, I bring them snacks. I do all the things. But this particular woman, I was like, oh my gosh, what in the world? So she almost throws my packet on the table in the conference room. And then I said, "And you are?" Just like that.
Yeah.
Because I thought, good grief. And she said, "Oh, I'm Lynn." And I was like, okay. And then it dawned on me, oh my gosh, this is the Lynn that I have been working with for years, and I've never met her face to face.
Oh, that's crazy.
And
Just like on the phone and with email?
Yes.
Oh, funny.
And she's wonderful. Okay. She's great. But boy, oh boy, she sure didn't care how she came across on this particular day.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
And I immediately took offense at her posture because I didn't know who she was. I did not know who she was. And then I sat down. I was like, oh my gosh, it is so nice to meet you. And then it was almost like she came out of it. You know what I mean? And it was super, you know, she started to tell me stories, and she was, you know, being more animated, and she's still an introvert and whatnot. Like, she's still very analytical and, you know, but.
Is still an accountant. Sorry. Offense to all the accountants out there.
Oh, none of them are listening to us right now anyway.
Yeah, it's tax season.
It's tax season. However, I really started to think about this idea. It's like, you know, people skills are so important. You know, they're just a really critical piece of who we are, particularly in a work setting.
Yep.
And I would really like us to dive into this a little bit.
Well, there's like even you're talking about people skills there, and there's even a little bit of like bedside manner skill there. Yeah. Especially with some of these jobs, like when you're interacting with your clients. So tell me, like, what is people skills? Like, what is that?
No idea. I was hoping you would tell me. Well,
I mean, sometimes I like starting with like defining what these things are, and like picking your brain about what do you think people skills means? Yeah. Like that you can talk well with people. Yeah. That you can read people's emotions. Like, what are they?
It's your ability to relate to other human beings, you know? And I think relating is on an emotional level, it's on a mental level. You know, there's just a number of ways that we connect with other human beings, and how we speak, our body language, how we express our emotions, you know, and all of those as we are partnering with other humans to do that. Those are all people skills. That's what I phrase that as. Yep. How about you?
And that, I mean, it's like how you're communicating. You know, you're talking about communication skills. A lot of times we call those what are the soft skills?
Right, exactly.
And you know, how do you collaborate with people? Yeah. How do you kind of like, I don't know, either like lead or even deal with conflict?
Right. That's a really big one too, isn't it? Anytime you have to have any kind of thing that's a difficult conversation.
Like, how do you have difficult conversations? Yeah.
Yeah. Or even first-time conversations that seem like they have a lot more weight than you ever had before. Like, there's just a number of things.
To me, like, even how do you, I want to say control your emotions, but how do you deal with your emotions as you're interacting with your work colleagues?
Right. Yeah. I do think, I totally agree with you.
And that's all, that whole bucket of stuff is in contrast to what I would call like your technical skill. And so much at work is around our technical skill, right? Am I good at accounting? Am I good at
IT.
engineering? Am I good at, and I'm honing. And a lot of the, so many like job descriptions and kind of performance analysis is all around your technical skill. And some companies do it around some of the soft skills, but to me, it's so heavy on the technical skill.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what you're saying, is your focus on your technical skill actually getting in the way of your people skills.
Yeah. And also, like, just a plus one, what you were saying is like, you're talking about job descriptions. And I think for the general workforce, the 80% of the people that show up in jobs, it is very much around that, right? It's around the particular skill for that job. And then there might be a line or two, about working in a team or, something like that. I think then as you move up in the ranks, then that job description may become heavier on the people side. But it may even just be in language such as, your department needs to perform at X% or whatever with your team, right? But yes, the people skills, I honestly believe that there are many, many people that this is not a natural place where they enjoy developing themselves because it's hard. And it's almost easier to just ignore it and think that your personal output will forego the need for you or the focus of that people side. Like my whatever I do is going to outperform any of my necessary develop myself on the people side.
Yes. This is the foundation of a policy we have at my company.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What?
No brilliant assholes.
You swore. We don't swear a lot on this podcast.
Well, it's a very important policy.
It really is.
So what I mean by that is that we have had, and I think a lot of people will maybe see this in their organizations, there are some people with such amazing technical skill at their job.
Real talent.
Natural talent, brilliant, genius level people, but they really just can't work with anyone else.
Yes.
They drive people away. They make other people quit. They're super hard to work for or work with. And over my career, having some of those folks, while they've done some like amazing technical work, it's not sustainable for the kind of organization that I want to run.
Right.
So we will value like teamwork and collaboration and some of these softer skills over sheer brilliance in technical capability. And that's a culture choice that we made for our
especially in your industry.
Yeah. And it hasn't been easy, because sometimes those technical people are the only ones that can do a thing.
Yeah.
So,
I remember one time I was asked to do a team building session. This is so many years ago. I know everyone there has already been retired. But at American Eagle Outfitters was a big client of mine for years and years. And one of the very first team building sessions I ever got to do / had to do was an IT group for American Eagle. And it was so awkward and it was so uncomfortable. And I must have lost 5 pounds from sweating. I mean, it was so awkward. The IT director that was in the room was he was this guy that you just described. He was brilliant, and he was brought in because of that. But I remember saying this phrase in the group, and he shook his head yes, and he totally agreed with me. I said, I think you just have to be a little careful, because your leadership style might be go in your office, shut the door, have one dangling 60-watt bulb over your computer, and don't bother me.
Yeah.
And he said, yep. And he was proud of it.
Yeah.
He was proud of that. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I never thought he'd be proud of it. Now, how do I get us out of here? You know? But yeah, I agree with you. It is something. I think that the world is becoming more aware in the workforce, in the workplace, that the people skill is, you're seeing a lot more on self-awareness. You're seeing, a lot of thought leaders, Simon Sinek, Brene Brown, a lot of these people that are in corporate offices all the time speaking on, and all sorts of other people too, obviously, but speaking on this in the importance of building rapport with others.
Yeah. We talk a lot about kind of what past story has influenced your thinking and how it shapes you today. And a story I had to stop telling myself was one around this, because when I was in high school, I was a designer, I as a programmer, I could do all of these technical things. And it always annoyed me, that phrase in high school. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Oh, yes.
And I'm no, it's not. It's what I know, because I was a nerd, right? The nerd's frame is, it is all about what I know and not who I know. I don't care about that. But as I had to mature in my career, I did have to change that talk track for myself, because a lot of it is who you know.
Yep.
And more importantly, how you interact with those people that you know.
Yes.
And so I couldn't just rely on my technical skill anymore. I had to develop a whole new skill set that was kind of contrary to a belief I had in high school.
Right. I actually just sat here before we hit record. I was just sitting here thinking, what are some of the different levels in which we enter into this experiment of growing our people skills? What are the different pockets of people in our workplace, and how does it even impact us? And I started to realize, the very first time it impacts us in our roles and continues to impact us until we retire and move on is the first impression. I mean, people make decisions about you immediately in a first impression. And if you're somebody who is focused more on your resume and your analytical skill set, and your eyes are down on the paper, and you're not trying to sell what you know, you're simply choosing as few words as possible to tell what you know, even if you're the very perfect person to be in that space, it puts you at a disadvantage immediately. I was helping a young man who is a PhD in a very scientific role. I was helping him look for a job, and he was very specifically suited for this job, 100%. And it was such a specific job, I thought there's going to be no applicants to this. I mean, they had it written so tight to the job description. There were 46 applicants for this really hard technical role. And this young man that I was coaching got the job. I believe he got the job because not only did he have that analytical skill, but he was so warm and so genuine. He made it his business to know everybody that was in that room and where they came from. And he took that extra time. And I 100% believe that that's what gave him the leg up to get the job.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, you wonder how, again, I'm a little cautious on this topic a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I don't want it to sound like office politics.
Well,
I don't want it to sound like, hey, no, I'm just trying to use social capital in ways to get ahead. Because to me, it's not necessarily about maybe trying to climb the corporate ladder or get ahead or get a new different job or something, but a lot of the people skills is for me at work, and I guess maybe for my team, is how do you just develop this rapport with your coworkers to just make your day 10% better?
Well,
like I want everyone to come to work and, work well together and be happy and perform well and, and deal with issues in a kind way towards each other.
Right.
These are like the people skills that like I want my team to develop.
But here's the thing. I'm going to push on this a little bit. You said you don't want it to be political. The thing is, it is political. At the very first, when you're coming into a place with trying to make a first impression, you have your skill set and everybody else has their skill set, and you're likely going to get the job because you are showing up in a way that what you, the hiring person, is looking for. So it is political, and I don't want it to be. But it is. A lot of it really is. And I think just being honest about that is important. Now, this isn't saying to be fake. This isn't saying to be narcissistic. This is saying that developing this piece of you will never, ever, ever hurt you, particularly when you're trying to break into a new role. Yeah. So that's just one component of it, right? But then there's a number of different ways when you have a job that you also look at your relationship with your peers and your colleagues. Forget about the team, the leadership, whole team, like where there's varying levels, but just even on your general colleague level, having a people skill developed, there's so many benefits to it, right? It helps people know you. It helps people trust you. You will be the first one someone may come to help them think through something or problem solve, and you get a lot more done.
Yeah. Well, that's the side effect of if you're really technically focused.
Yeah.
Like a lot of what you want, even your self-worth is driven around your output.
Exactly.
And if you can have, not other people help you with your output, but it makes it all smoother.
Right.
Right. If you're working really well as a team, it makes all of your work output smoother.
Right. I totally agree. Smoother, more efficient, maybe faster, and maybe broader impacts than you would ever be able to do by yourself, because you have group dynamic with creativity, and it's amplified because people trust each other and they can connect with each other and talk more. And I think that's amazing.
We actually talk about a whole bunch of these things in sort of different contexts.
Yeah, we do.
But if you bring it all together kind of in this work context, I mean, you're talking about like listening, like being a better listener.
Yep.
That's a great interpersonal skill.
Yes, hugely.
Handling difficult situations, right? Those come up at work all the time. Yeah. And we have all experienced people who don't handle that very well. And some that handle it really well. And being the kind of person that can handle a difficult situation really well, like helps you and your team.
Totally.
And then even just like networking, but like you said, being authentic about it, not being like, I'm trying to play this game, but just being really genuine and authentic in your networking.
Yep.
Because you never really, especially in some of our industries that are pretty small, you never know who's out there that is going to help you.
Yeah, I actually like that, and I had just written a couple little notes for us today, and the networking piece. What I had written about that, I never used that word, but I said, when you do focus on the people skill, developing your people skill, it does open doors for you that maybe even you wouldn't have tried to open. It gives you opportunities because people know, like, and trust you. They see things for you that you may not even see for yourself. And I think that is really, really important because I'll tell you something. If you have developed yourself in a way and it's noticed by someone you don't expect, or it puts you in a role that you don't expect, it makes you feel so good. And you know what you want to do with that? You want to do the same thing for someone else. So it is part of that whole pay it forward It just gives you the opportunity to be better understood, and for someone with more experience than you to see, you know what, this person has these skills. And while they don't understand the value of these skills in these different areas, I got a few years on them and I do, you know, and it lets you be seen more. I was going to say too, I think it's really important that we make this differentiation right now, because I just realized I haven't, and it might be sending us and you've said a couple things here. You know, developing our people skills isn't really for us. It is, but it's for the others. You know, it's for the others. If people feel safe with you, they're going to feel better. If people feel they can talk to you, they're going to feel better.
Yeah. And from especially from like a leadership perspective, that's key.
Yes. Yeah. It really is key. Yeah.
There's some other people skills that I think we should touch on.
Okay.
And again, do we have a podcast on this? I don't remember.
I don't know.
But giving feedback.
Yeah.
Like feedback is such giving and receiving feedback.
Yes, I know.
I mean, that happens all the time. And then because that's a interaction with another person. So how we give and receive feedback, developing that skill, to me is key. And then a really simple thing, especially when you're in the office, sometimes when you're on a Zoom meeting, is your body language.
Yeah, exactly.
There's so many. I mean,
I know.
Of course, we have a lot of software engineers, and they're amazing. But sometimes their body language is
but you can't say but. You can't give a compliment and then say but, because it mitigates the compliment.
Okay, I retract the compliment. Their body language sometimes is saying something completely different than their mouth.
I retract the compliment. Can you give me an example? Now I'm really curious, because I'd like to visualize a Zoom with all these screens.
Well, on Zoom, if your camera's off, that's a body language.
Well,
right
yes,
there.
Of course it is. Yeah.
But no, sometimes our really technical folks, you'll be maybe giving them feedback, and they'll be verbally agreeing with you, like with their arms crossed and like kind of a grumpy face on and their shoulders tight. Like, not calling your baby ugly, but we just need to move this button like 5 pixels to the left.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I don't even have any comment.
There's so much of our communication that is nonverbal.
Yes.
I just wanted to call that out, that as we're talking about people skills and interacting with people, to me, that's a huge piece of it.
Well, it's
that we
87%.
Have to be aware of.
It's 87% your nonverbals. I think too, you know, as you develop in your career, and I know we have several listeners that are, you know, on that 50-ish, 50-year-old bubble. So we're really, you know, there's probably several listeners here that are in the workforce 100% still, and have kids that are now in the workforce. And I think you listen for different lenses, you know, like I just think as you apply some of the conversations that we have, particularly this one, it's not unusual to apply it to yourself, but then also to be scanning the people that you know quite well and figuring out how they're going to respond to this. And, you know, there's just different levels of, even as you age, I think you do have different understanding about what people connection really is and what those people skills really are. I have seen, you know,
I mean, when you're young, again, this kind of comes, I think a lot of this programming actually comes from school.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
You over tilt on your technical skill when you're maybe early in your career. That's what I would observe. As you get more mature in your career, I think a lot of people expand on their people side.
I totally disagree. And
the
reason I do is
why?
Because I started in sales and you didn't. Oh. So for me, it was like, don't tell them about the technical skills. Just wow them with your personality. Okay, I'm telling you, that is an exhausting thing to do. But that was my strategy. It was totally opposite of yours.
Totally opposite. Now all you've been doing recently is working on your technical skill on Excel and
can someone teach me how to read a P&L, please? Isn't that funny? I mean, it's just our what I find fascinating is, just our natural personalities are so different, and we always kind of laugh about that and comment about it. But isn't that funny? Even the framework for which we enter into the conversation around people skill. And by the way, this was your topic idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And that actually just goes to show you that the way I look at the world and the way you look at the world, in some ways, completely different. And part of our people skill is actually trying to explore that and figure out what that is.
I know.
Because if I assume you're thinking the same way that I think, then we're going to probably have a problem at some point.
Oh my gosh.
Or we're just going to have a whole bunch of laughs about it.
I mean, I'm just laughing because I cannot express to you how many times I did incredibly embarrassing things when I was newly in sales, just trying to quote, put myself out there to get the sale. It's like, oh, if I could replay those and redo them a million times over, I would definitely take a page from your playbook. It's like, shut up, Melissa, and just hand them the purchase order.
Okay, you got like a couple more minutes. What tips do you have for people to maybe help develop their people skills if they're like, yeah, you know what, I am pretty technical skill focused, and I just would like to expand my people skill set a little bit?
Yeah, I think I was just gonna say, I think a really good thing that you could do is you could ask those around you at work. What do you, like your managers or people that have a little more experience than you, you could be asking them, hey, have you ever participated in, working on your people skills? What do you think that would look like? I'm considering options. Do you know of any? Because, 20 years ago, there was like Dale Carnegie. You want to get better at
how to
skills?
Win friends and influence people.
Oh
like
my gosh. And it was such a,
from 1930 or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but today, there are so many options, and they're very much industry focused now. They're also positionally focused, types of roles. And so there may be some really key places that I would never know about if I wasn't in your industry or if I wasn't in your space. So I think that's one. I think asking if you're in a large organization, do they have a leadership development program? Are there parts and pieces about that? Learning how to become a better speaker. I'll tell you what, one thing I will say is if you want to get better at your people skills, take a public speaking course. Learn how to speak. People hate that. They just, even the idea of it makes them go, oh, okay, I was receptive until you said that. Now I'm not listening to the rest of this pod. I mean, they're that strong about it. But learning how to communicate is really, really a key thing. And there's a number of things that you can do to do that. And read books. If you don't, you can read books and take online coursework if that feels safer for you. What about you? What do you think?
Like all I was thinking about are times when I was at my desk deep in technical work and someone would come up to me and I would be so annoyed. So my suggestion was going to be like, be less annoyed by people.
And see, if I was at my desk as a young salesperson,
like, why are you standing here? I'm like miles deep in code. Go away.
Because it's going to be happy hour in 4 hours and I just want to know where we're going.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. I think it kind of starts with just deciding that you're going to work on it.
Yeah.
You're going to be maybe a little bit more flexible and compassionate and open to talking with people. See, this is 180 degrees from where you're at.
I feel like I need to just shut up and let you finish this and give us more real practical applications for how to improve people's skills. Well, I mean, I think it's important to have a sense of humor about it because we are wired the way we are. And this is not about turning yourself inside out or becoming someone you're not. This is like, can you move the dial 3%? Can you continue to recognize the value of it, even if you don't fully appreciate it right now? What parts can you? What are you willing to do on that front? Can you set something up for yourself?
Yeah, and little for me and my peers out there that are wired similarly to me, just little bits. Like you don't have to go full Melissa happy hour engagement. You can just like do little baby steps.
Oh, amen.
Did you enjoy this episode? Please go to your favorite podcast platform to subscribe, rate, and leave a review so others can discover it as well.
Growing self-awareness is a lifelong journey, and there's always further to go. And it's better when we're all in it together. Please think of someone you know who could benefit from hearing today's conversation and share this episode with them. We can't thank you enough for listening. Until next time, happy exploring, seekers.